Hey everyone, Gill Gross here post-match, Stefanos Tsitsipas versus Andrey Rublev, and a dead rubber between Novak Djokovic and Daniil Medvedev, which despite being a dead rubber, Djokovic already into the semis, Medvedev already eliminated, was a really, really great match that I definitely have plenty of thoughts on, and I will get to them second. First, the match that was a winner moves on, loser goes home match between Tsitsipas and Rublev, a rivalry that's been very back and forth. And they've played a lot of really memorable and excellent matches over the years. On this occasion, it was Andrey Rublev. They split the first two sets. Rublev took the third, 6-2. Big time for Andrey. Big week for him. You know, to qualify at this event in his, third time trying. He's had some difficult losses in the round robin stage in years past. He gets the win over Medvedev and he backs it up here with another big win. And he's in the semis and he gets to play Casper Ruud, who he's played very, very well. He's got a 4-1 head-to-head against Ruud. So this is a big moment for Andrey. Great performance as well. I don't think anybody could have touched Tsitsipas at the level he was playing in the first set, but Rublev stayed the course. Tsitsipas came back down to earth, and then in the third set, Rublev was the much more focused and determined player, and we'll get to reasons why. In fact, I part of me wants to lead with the concerns that I have over what happened with Stefanos Tsitsipas in this match and his loss of focus in the third set. But I'm just going to instead first pay my respects to Andrey Rublev for his performance and talk about some of the things that he did really, really well. I think in this head-to-head, he's always going to have a lot of success when he makes his first serve and is playing offense immediately. His first strike tennis against Tsitsipas. That backhand defense for Steph, and obviously the return, it's not really good enough to withstand Rublev's serve +1 aggression. Not in these conditions. But the second serve is the interesting part here. Because on the second serve, we've seen already in this event a spectrum. We saw Medvedev not take advantage, not attack Rublev's second serve, and Andrey won that match. Then we saw Djokovic ruthlessly attack Rublev's second serve, and Djokovic won that match. Andrey lost it. Where does Tsitsipas fit in on that spectrum? Well, first of all, Rublev did a good job of mixing up his second serve just enough, and he hit good locations on the second serve and didn't really double fault in this match. So he executed well on the second serve, and what that looks like is making Tsitsipas hit backhand returns, and that one-hander on the return, even the second return, it's not good enough to attack Rublev. So if Rublev gets it to the backhand, he's safe. He's safe. He doesn't get attacked. And I thought that was a huge key for Andrey, who in the second set did not make his first serves. 56% first serves in, but he was able to win 9 of 14 second serve points, 64%. And he won the second set. In the third set, Rublev did what he really wants to do, which is make so many first serves that the second serve doesn't really come into focus. Andrey made 74% of his first serves, but when he did have to, this is almost silly even to say, he only hit 5 second serves. He won 3 of 5. So he kind of took his second serve out of it in the third set with his first serve dominance. He won 13 of 14 of his first serve points. But in the second set, the second serve had to be better than it was in the first set. And it was. In the first set, Tsitsipas got some forehands on the second return. He ran around some. Some of them were too slow and too central. Tsitsipas got some runaround forehand returns. In the second set, you got to credit the improvement that Rublev made. No forehand returns, all backhands. That was big. Well, sometimes forehand returns, but on those occasions, it was Rublev keeping Tsitsipas honest by actually going into the forehand intentionally. Sometimes I feel like the backhands decide this head-to-head. Who protects it better? Or who serves and returns better? Who creates the most forehands for themselves? The forehands are the big weapons. The forehands are the moneymaker. So who's gonna create more opportunities to hit their offensive forehands? Because whoever does that is generally going to win. And a lot of the time that comes down to who trades the backhand better. I think Rublev has won a couple matches here where I felt like that was the key. Or who serves better, who returns better, who defends better. In this case, I actually think the forehand effectiveness was the biggest difference between the first set and the second set. The first set, Tsitsipas winning. The second set, Rublev winning. The consistency and the potency of the forehand, I think Rublev's forehand went from somewhat erratic to very much on point from the first set to the second set. And then the Tsitsipas forehand in the first set, it was unplayable. In the second set, the mistakes crept in. And that is where I think we mostly arrived at that split set result. Getting to the third set now, unfortunately, it seemed like a focus thing. It seemed like out at 1-1 in the third set, Tsitsipas went off the rails because he got distracted by his box, by his father and his mother. What ended up happening in this 1-1 game, first of all, let me give you the experience of how I watched it unfold. First point of that 1-1 game, awful drop shot by Tsitsipas that just popped up and gave Rublev a really, really easy put away. Just a terrible drop shot. Then on the second point, love 15 here, first forehand, a +1 forehand miss where he went inside out, and it was such a weird miss. It just wasn't remotely close to the court. He almost like decelerated. There was indecision. There was no confidence in how he accelerated through the hitting zone. And it wasn't just that. It wasn't an ordinary miss. It was just a not even close miss. And now it's love 30. And I'm thinking like, what the heck was those? That was a really bad way to start the game. Okay, let's see what's going to happen. And then I think it was after winning the love 30 point, or it could have been before the love 30 point, Tsitsipas hit a ball in the direction, before serving, he hit a ball in the direction of his camp. And then apparently he said something. I didn't see that, but the Tennis Channel broadcast, Brett Haber, said he said something that, couldn't be repeated on air. So I don't know what he said. Probably like, shut the F up or something like that. But, what we saw on the court followed by what we ended up seeing on the replay. And then on the replay, here's what we saw when the camera showed the box. It showed Stefanos' mother yelling something to Tsitsipas. Then his father responding to the mother, turning to the mother, responding, and then saying something to Steph. And that is when Steph hit the ball at the box. So it certainly looked like Steph's mother said something, his father didn't agree or was upset with what his mother said, and now Stefanos is having to address what is going on in his camp. On break point in that game, it was 40-30, and Tsitsipas, I will give Rublev some credit. He had a good backhand pass to get it to 15-40. And then we get to 30-40 in this game, and Tsitsipas hits a forehand down the line, which was very, very bad shot selection. There was no opening to go down the line. It would have been a miracle if he made it. So this was a bad loss of focus. We saw some strange tennis from Tsitsipas in this game, and it results in a break of serve. I think if we had in isolation Tsitsipas getting upset with his camp, it would be a non-story and I wouldn't want to talk about it. Whatever. But the fact that we saw the tennis get so weird at the same time as we saw that interaction with the box, it just can't be ignored. And there's a very strong possibility, I think, from anyone who was observing how these events transpired, that Tsitsipas's drop in focus and level was a direct result of what was happening in his box. And I cannot believe that in a match in the ATP Finals that this could be the case. It is a very difficult pill to swallow, that in a match of this magnitude, we are talking about a player's family members affecting that player's ability to win the match. And I understand that Stefanos is an adult. His parents are adults. I'm not blaming a singular individual here. But the fact that this is still going on at, Tsitsipas well into his career, he is a borderline veteran at this point. He is, reached the heights of professional tennis, and these kinds of things are happening. It does not add up. This is the kind of thing that you expect to see at the lower levels of tennis. You do not expect to see at the higher levels of tennis. And it's frustrating to see. It's difficult to see. I just didn't think I would ever be breaking down a match like this at this kind of event and, having to talk about the conduct of a coaching box, a player getting distracted by stuff going on in their box, dialogue from their box. It's crazy. It's crazy that we have to go there. The next break of serve by Rublev in the third set was very much caused by aggressive second serve returning by Rublev, followed by a pair of double faults by Tsitsipas. So then he serves it out 6-2, and that is the match for Rublev. So there you have it. Great performance by Rublev. Good job sticking with it after the great level by Stefanos in the first set, but ultimately that third set was a yikes, especially because Tsitsipas has shown so many encouraging signs in his last couple events with how well he's competed and focused and how well he's played. I leave this ATP Finals from Tsitsipas's perspective with a lot of mixed feelings now after having so many positive feelings about the level that he had shown through really, 6-7 sets here. His first two matches, first set here against Rublev, and then it all fell apart. So Rublev moves on. Before we get to Medvedev, Djokovic, a reminder and a shout out to our partners for this video. Coverage of the ATP Finals is brought to you by BetUS. For this year's year-end championships, play with America's favorite sports book. And with the link in the description, you can get $125 extra on your first deposit. That is the promo code Gill Gross. The link in the description, $125 extra on your first deposit with BetUS. Medvedev Djokovic. I thought Medvedev would win this match because I can't think of worse circumstances for Djokovic. What ends up happening? Novak wins it in a third set tiebreak. Third straight match that Medvedev drops in a deciding tiebreak. And the second match that Medvedev served for and does not come out on top. That's a really big blow. We'll talk about those things in a second. But I am amazed by Novak Djokovic. I get it. There's an argument to be made that there shouldn't be anything that he does that at this point should still amaze you. But that's the great thing about a great champion is they always do things to amaze you. They always continue to impress. Otherwise, it'd get boring watching them, and it doesn't. I can't think of worse circumstances for Djokovic because there's a huge motivational edge for Medvedev. An 0-2 player playing a 2-0 player, Daniil wanting to finish off the season strong, wanting to finish unfinished business from Astana several weeks ago when Medvedev was in prime position to try to win the match and was really unable to put his best foot forward in the closing efforts because of an injury. And motivation and psychological dynamics, which I thought would really favor Medvedev, is of heightened importance in a match that gets extremely physical, in a match that requires suffering to win. And Medvedev, tactically, is so good at bringing those factors into play. He is so good at making his opponents suffer. And you would think that a 2-0 opponent who has already clinched the semifinals, who has to play that semifinal tomorrow, the very next day, might say, I'm not here to suffer right now. It's not worth it to me. But somehow Novak Djokovic found the will to compete hard in this match despite the physical suffering, which he had to go through, which he did go through. And somehow he found the will to win. Where did it come from? I think it came from rivalry between him and Daniil. This is personal. It is about, I value this rivalry against Medvedev, which has been a meaningful one. And every time we play, we're going to go at it. And competition, which I think all the greats have, where, when they step on the tennis court, it's really, really hard, borderline impossible for them to switch off some of that competitive nature. But I would think, that subconsciously and just by human nature, it would be difficult for Novak to do what he did. Somehow he did it. And by the way, let's also acknowledge that even if there was some reduced motivation for Novak, and there's very little evidence that there was, sometimes the skill saves the will. If there was a little bit of lacking of will for Djokovic to suffer, he did have the skills in that third set when his legs weren't really there. He did have the skill to shorten and to win points without really having to rely too much on his physicality. We saw, like Carlos Alcaraz did that against Ruud in the U.S. Open final. Were the legs 100% there? No, but the skill can sometimes make up for some of those deficiencies. If you've been following my coverage as I transition to getting into the match itself, if you've been following my coverage of Djokovic-Medvedev and that rivalry, last couple times, really last several times they've met, I've noticed that both players have a opposite and competing desire. Medvedev a desire to make it a grind fest, to make it about who's the last man to drop dead. Last to drop dead wins. And Djokovic wants to use his skill gap, use his point finishing skill gap, bring that into focus, and use the fact that he has more than Medvedev does in terms of changing certain things in rallies aggressively, using certain aggressive tools to really highlight some of the advantages he has technically over Medvedev. That might have sounded like jargon. Let me just simplify it for a second. Djokovic wants to finish points on his own terms against Daniil before they turn into very grueling, uncreative, rhythmic baseline cross-court rallies, if I can paint a picture there. I believe this match affirmed both players' strategies. Medvedev had Djokovic on the ropes physically. Daniil looked fresher. And I think that is always his best shot against Novak, and it has been his best shot against Novak. Djokovic, on the other hand, might regret that from the get-go, he allowed so many lengthy rallies. It was not until the third set where he really used his full array of point finishing abilities to the best that he can. This is, highlighted by the fact that, they played 24 plus 23, whatever that is. 40, I'm not doing this. Oh, actually, no, I can do it. 40, I can do it, guys. 47, 9+ shot rallies in this match. That's an unbelievable number. It wasn't until the third set where Djokovic, I thought, made a better effort to shorten the points. And he probably wanted, if he could do a redo, he would do that quicker. So I feel like it affirmed both players' strategies. What happened here is in the second set, after Djokovic dominated the baseline rallies in the first set, in the second set, Djokovic at 2-all in the tiebreak, they played this really long physical point, and Novak lost it. It was a crazy rally. Djokovic played a ton of defense and just came out. Medvedev was able to win it. Djokovic, though, looked very affected physically by this. He double faulted on the next point. Then they got to change ends. Novak didn't look good at the change of ends, but he still put himself in a position to try to win this tiebreak. It got to 5-all. Novak then didn't make a good enough first volley, then missed a stretch reflex volley, then he netted a backhand down the line. So Medvedev wins the second set tiebreak. And it wasn't really clear at that point that Djokovic was going to have so much trouble physically in the third set. But then come the third set, it became apparent that Novak was running on fumes. And he didn't, let me just say right now, after the match, Djokovic didn't want to get into any details about how he was feeling. He emphasized that the match was grueling and physical, which it was. But clearly there was something wrong, something a little bit off. Djokovic should not have been as tired as he was. And, he didn't want to get into details because he thought, he doesn't want his opponents to really know what he was going through. But I do think something went wrong for Djokovic here. And this wasn't a normal level of fatigue. It was an above something more than normal fatigue is kind of what I'm saying here. But there were a couple of, I kind of want to get into why Medvedev didn't win this third set, even though Djokovic looked like he was on 50% energy levels. First of all, I was really impressed with Djokovic's serving in this third set. I don't think I've ever talked about this, but Novak's service motion is beautiful, and I think the biomechanics of it allow him to serve well when tired. There's a certain flow, a certain effortlessness. There's no extreme bend at the knees. There's no extreme anything when it comes to that service motion, where it just feels like Djokovic has an ability to serve well when tired. It's not an easy thing to do. And I think it was the biggest key of why he was able to get through, especially the early to middle stages of the third set when he just didn't look right. He was able to just hang on to his serve because he was serving really, really well. Great biomechanics on the service motion, allowing him to serve well when tired. I also think that Medvedev on the return gave Djokovic a get-out-of-jail-free card on the deuce side. He's got to fix this. He has to. It is, from a neutral perspective, just from someone analyzing the match, it makes me crazy that Medvedev is okay with losing every single point on the deuce side when Djokovic serves out wide every single time and doing nothing about it. Doing absolutely nothing about it. It's insanity. Do I have second screen here? Let me pull up second screen so I can give you the numbers of Medvedev or Djokovic serving on the deuce side out wide. 68% of his serves for the match were out wide on the deuce side. 71% in the third and final set. And these are first serves that I'm looking at. Overall for the match, Djokovic won 19 points and lost 6 when serving out wide on deuce. But in the third set, he won 10 and he lost 3. A lot of it was with serve and volley in the third set. Djokovic didn't want to play long rallies, so he would kind of do that slider, that off-speed slider out wide. It allows him to close the net. Same thing happened at the Paris Masters final last year. It's just a good play for Novak. He used it in the tiebreak. He used it in a couple big spots. Medvedev did serve for this match, though. He did a good job of breaking serve at 4-all, where Djokovic, again, looking exhausted, had to kind of go for a little bit extra on his forehand, missed a couple of those balls, and Medvedev served for it. Daniil did not get a single short ball with his serve at 5-4 here. He missed some first serves. He also made a couple. When he made a couple, none of them were A level. He made some B level first serves. Didn't make any A level first serves. Probably because of nerves. Still, a B-level first serve by Medvedev is good. It is good. Novak hit some great returns. On that break point, he read that Medvedev wide serve perfectly. He was right there. So he made some good reads. He made a good reactionary first serve on the first point of the game when he didn't read the serve well. He leaned the wrong way, had to kind of react and block a backhand return, and it was great. It was deep. So at the end of the day, the problem is for Medvedev, he got nothing out of his serve in this 5-4 game. Not a single free point, not a single short ball. Nothing. And Djokovic breaks. In the fifth set tiebreak, first point of the breaker, Djokovic goes wide on the deuce, gets a service winner out of it. Again, it's like that should never happen. For Medvedev at this point, your opponent on every single big point is going out wide. Give up the tee. Give it up. Just take away the wide serve on the deuce if you do nothing else. That's my perspective on it. And I don't understand from Medvedev's perspective why he didn't do that better. Second point of the tiebreak, Medvedev doesn't finish a backhand volley. We've seen that movie before. Medvedev sometimes, he can hit a good volley. Sometimes he hits bad ones. It's just not, there's not a lot of consistency there. And he hit a bad backhand volley. Djokovic hit a good lob. Medvedev's backhand overhead went wide. Then Medvedev hit an ace, so it's 2-1, but that was the mini break. Djokovic hit a nice serve up the tee, followed by a short forehand and an overhead finish. That put him up 3-1. Serve and volley by Novak at 3-1. Where do you think he went with the serve? He went out wide, and he had an easy backhand volley into the open court. A volley he would make 10 out of 10 times. That put him up 4-1. And then at 4-1, and this is the last point I'm going to talk about before kind of cutting this off. I don't want to tell you about every point. At 4-1, Medvedev got in one of these, good long physical rallies. And Djokovic, it sounded like he was getting tired. He was grunting very loudly at this point in the rally. But then Medvedev actually tried to attack with his forehand and made an unforced error. Perhaps Medvedev should, in a case like that, never attack. Just don't. I mean, if you happen to get like a sitter, then maybe attack. But an argument can be made in a baseline rally. If Medvedev wants to beat Novak, don't attack. Don't attack. Just trade. Just trade, baby. Never attack. Make Novak collapse out of exhaustion and then go from there. An argument can be made that should be the approach. At times he committed to that approach, it seemed. At times he did not. That'll do it for the longest post-match ever of these two matches. Hope you enjoyed. Don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you next time.